The next panel is on social innovation, and I have great pleasure in introducing Conchita as the panelist. Conchita is a close friend. She's helped me multiple times. I don't know how she has time. I think she works on a clock which has 48 hours in a day. You've probably met her at Area 31. She's always there. She's managing that show. She has her own social enterprise, and she's also going to moderate this panel on social entrepreneurship. All right, so thank you very much, Conchita, and a big round of applause for Conchita and our panel. You don't have slides.
Is this working? Hello. I'm thrilled today, first to be introduced by one of my most favorite people in IE, which is Kiran, and second, to be participating in a panel with three people that I deeply admire. I'm having one of these moments in which I can't believe that I get paid for this. So thanks to my boss. Is Juanjo here? No. Okay, so I shouldn't be saying that I get paid for stuff that I enjoy in front of my boss, but that's what happens. So I hope that you come to admire them as much as I do. You might know that people in the world mostly can be divided among two groups, those with whom you would have a drink and those with whom you wouldn't. These three people are definitely three people you want to have a drink with because they have the most inspiring stories to tell. I want to introduce to you Johannes Wilms. Please come up. He is the CEO. Big hand. Come on, people. Johannes is the CEO of Sunny River and Shallow Water. Please take a seat. Him and his team are bringing drinking water and energy to remote communities in Kenya. Also to join us, there's Ramon Marmolejos. Please come in. Ramon is the CEO of Mzingo. Some of you might have come across Mzingo during your programs at IE. Mzingo creates transformational experiences for high-potential people that empower them to become leaders for development and innovation. And finally, it's my pleasure to ask Rodrigo Niño to join us again in the panel. Huge hand. You already know him. You know his CV, so I'd like to tell you something that is not in his CV that you won't read there. As busy as he is, Rodrigo is probably one of the kindest, most approachable people you can think of. So if you can grab hold of him, introduce yourselves, he's a very easy person to talk to. So first thing, I'd like to explain how this panel is going to work. This is going to be an informal kind of conversation. Most of us already know each other from before, so I'm really excited. I'm like 15 minutes into the panel. I'm going to ask you all to come up with questions. We're going to continue the conversation, so don't feel forced to ask. It's not going to be this awkward moment where there's no questions and then no one talks. I do hope that if you have a question, it is a question. Question as defined by me means you can state it in no more than 30 seconds and it finishes with a question mark. If what you have to say does not fit in 30 seconds or does not finish with a question mark, feel free to write it down in the cards that you have, and Kiran will kindly mention it at the end in the wrap-up. So, guys, you've been invited to a panel on social innovation. I truly believe you all are social innovators, but what is social innovation? And what exactly makes of you social innovators? Why do you think you belong to this panel?
Well, first of all, I actually honestly must say I don't think I'm a social innovator. I see myself, if at all, a social entrepreneur.
Cool.
To explain how I see the difference, I think social innovation or social innovators are people who create or develop technologies, products, services, or even methodologies which improve access to financial stability, as John mentioned, access to health, to mobility, to really create an improvement. And I think the social entrepreneur, he effectively implements this into the market. So a social innovator can also be a social entrepreneur, but I think a social entrepreneur in itself is really the person who is in the field, who is really making that social innovation work by benefiting the local community, the local marketplace, the local industry, and really adding a given value to that demographic by not marginally increasing the price of or cost of that. And what's also important is we see a lot of social entrepreneurs who come to the market. They offer a great product, great technology, but there are still hidden costs. There are still costs which are added down the value chain or even come into the cost in the future. So a social entrepreneur has to really be able to create a sustainable benefit to the benefactors.
So not only mind the costs of his products, but the overall costs involved in using his services or his products, right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Ramon.
So, yeah, I would probably agree with a lot of what Johannes has said. I think this idea that you want to create a new technology, new methodology, new way of doing a process.
New and hopefully better.
And better. But the main intention is social value, no, social good. I think that's an important distinction. Yes, again, I would also agree, I don't consider myself necessarily a social innovator, but for sure, this idea of a social entrepreneur, I think, has the ability to look at an issue, right? Look at a social problem, some imbalance, and not walk away, right? So have this ability to say, I see the issue, but I have some inquietud, no? Something that drives me to say, I need to address this in some way. So in my case with Mzingo, it was really around this idea of how do you transform the way business is done. So if you want to think about how we can change business, I think you have to think about how you change people's mindsets. And so that's really what Mzingo does. We try to connect the business and the social sector. We do this through really transformational learning experiences that we hope can really change the perspective of our participants and also transform the organizations that we work with on the ground to have more impact and to amplify the work that they're doing. So,
I think that there's no creativity in selfishness. You know, there's no way you're going to be creative if you only think about yourself. And so that by definition makes social innovation or social entrepreneurship, that in my mind, I would just categorize them in the same bucket because it's semantics in my mind. I think that in order to be an entrepreneur, you need to be an innovator. So I think that if you start thinking about the others in any shape or form, and you develop a self-sustainable business by serving the community in any way, that's probably the most inspiring way of making a living, because you are effectively lining up profit with impact. And that, I believe, is the key to everything. And I mean, not in a philanthropic way. I have to say that it's the best and most profitable way to self-fulfill your own needs. And that's, in my mind, what social innovation and social entrepreneurship means. Is a way of lining up profit and maximizing your profit, breaking away from paradigms of self-pity and selflessness, because that really doesn't pencil in business, and make a living and strong profit derived from making good. So if you, like in our case, if we democratize access to projects and buildings in New York, and we make a killing at doing so, and our investors yield returns that they have never seen before, that in my mind is a way of social innovation.
But isn't that evil? Like, Ramon, you charge for your services. We pay for them. Aren't you a bad person because you're making money and saving the world? Aren't you evil?
Evil, no. No, that's a great question because I think it's one of the things that we decided early on about Mzingo of whether to be a nonprofit or a for-profit. And in our case, this idea of a for-purpose, no? We knew that our main driver was going to be produce an amazing experience. And I think that has value. So if I wanted to think about what was the thing that was going to drive the organization, it was always going to be about how do we innovate the programs that we have? Because we consider ourselves a leadership development program. We develop people, we develop the future leaders, and that has value, right? And so I wanted to make sure that we focus on providing world-class programs versus trying to think about, oh, can I get the next donor? Can I appease the funders? Because I think that's what separates us. And because we create value, we think that value should be compensated, right? And I think that's also a difference of social entrepreneurship. I think you're looking at how do you take market-based approaches to solve the most pressing issues that we have right now. And I think for us, if we really want to change the way business is done, we have to change the way business leaders are trained, and new skills, new mindsets. And so IE clearly is it was our first partner, believed in us, and now we've been able to scale. So I agree. I think it's a question that has to be done very early on, but I think the for-profit motive should not be decoupled from social impact. I think they're not mutually exclusive.
So it sounds like aligning economic incentive and social mission really revolutionizes the relationship with your product, with your user/customer, which goes back to John Hope Bryant's point about new forms of capitalism, new forms of rethinking the economy, so that it's not either or, but we can actually now pursue both things at the same time. And this sounds to me like it's a new mindset, right? It breaks this division between for-profit, non-profit, these different identities of like who we are. Do we need to choose between a career that we feel proud of and a career out of which we can make a living for our families? What's this, Johannes, what's this new mindset about? What's the mindset that would be required for a social entrepreneur?
I think there definitely is a transition in mindset. I think, especially if we're talking about social innovation or even just social development, there has been the classical aid relief. The development sector has been, taking a lot of donors' money throughout the world. I think it's over 830 million euros coming just from the EU every year for implementation of development work in places like Africa. I think a lot of this money is very necessary because there is really the bottom of the pyramid, which is really reliant on sustenance, right? But the real impact can be made with the mass market, or the mass consumer. And in the developing countries, the middle income or the lower income is just where the biggest impact is possible. So moving away from the mindset that we have to develop innovative concepts on feeding the poor, of course, is necessary. But if you think of really how do I impact the average Kenyan, or how do I impact the average American who's the struggling middle class, as John said. So this is where I believe the mindset is changing, where we say, let's create social innovations for the mass market, which are not in good shape. And if we can impact 200 million or 5 billion people who are really in that section, then I think the form of are you doing it with profit or without profit is irrelevant, because you are having such a large impact that we would be hypocritical if we would be helping others and not feeding ourselves. You know?
Mm-hmm. And all these that you say sound to me a little bit like we're talking about some like hero, you know, that does this, some saint, some super special people. We've been talking about role models and who role models are. And I mean, I've been running my social venture for 5 years. I'm definitely no hero. I'm definitely no saint. Most people that know me would agree. Can anybody be a social innovator, or is this like special people that were born and have this huge vocation? I mean, there's a lot of people here. Are only 2 or 3 able to be social innovators? Do they need to go to Kenya and start up a social venture?
That's, if I may, that's...
Because maybe they don't want to move their families to Kenya.
That's the beautiful part, you know, and what I really like about innovation, innovation and entrepreneurship and social innovation in general, that all it takes is really to raise your head, you know, and look around you. What you really need is a problem or a need of any sort. And you need to identify a need that you can connect with. And if you do something that moves you, you know, in my mind is democratizing it all. I would love to devote myself to effectively do that, you know. But there has to be a need that motivates you, that you can connect with. And then you need to find a way to make a profit out of solving that problem. And if you do, I believe, obviously because we do crowdfunding, that capital will not be an issue anymore, because people will get inspired. And we have seen in behavioral economics studies that we have done that the true, not only wisdom, but the morale of the crowd is going to create a psychology that is going to enable them to participate jointly with you and invest collectively with you. So you have access to capital, and you have access to the solution of a problem.
Mm-hmm. Cool. We're opening now the floor for questions. There's people with microphones around. You just raise your hands, and they'll reach out for you. In the meanwhile, what's the role of technology in social entrepreneurship, social innovation? Because at the very beginning of our conversation, Johannes, you were talking about costs and how, because you can't charge a high price, you need to keep your costs in check. A lot of stuff that was super expensive to do, and a lot of ways to do things that were super expensive in the past, or even impossible, are possible today.
Yeah. I think that is one of the key success factors which really makes our model work in Kenya, is that for example, if we are selling quality water to low-income earners, there is, as we heard before, there is a value to the product. The problem is that if you look at a product like this, the value of this product is to 95% defined by having access to it right here on my table. The actual value of the water inside, and I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here, is not more than 1 or 2 cents. So being in the water treatment sector, I can truly say that there is no reason why we should be bottling these small bottles and transporting them around the world when there is good quality water there where the people need it. So, and this is where our technology, which we have sourced in Germany, really allows us to develop the value from a local source and really reduce that other 95% and really give access to people in the local vicinity to a low cost but high quality product. And so technology is really enabling us there, and that's the thing. The technology exists. It's just a matter of applying it in a local aspect, which gives value to the local community. And so technology is essential, and it's reducing not only the cost to the end consumer, but the cost to my company, to the whole value chain. And of course, we're not just using technology to produce our water, but we're also using effective online platforms to improve our distribution model in the local area. For example, Kenya is an amazing country where they do the majority of their transactions with mobile phones. So we can really learn something from Kenya in terms of technology, and they're way ahead of us in that aspect. So all my employees are paid via my mobile phone. I just paid for inventory just now through my mobile app in Kenya. So this is really where technology is an amazing help, and is really breaking up barriers.
Yeah, Rodrigo, your project would literally not be possible without technology.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Without technology, it wouldn't be possible, because we raised, for example, last year, equity from 32 countries and 17 different states, and that only happens through technology. And I think that it's funny how machines are really making us better human beings. I think that thanks to technology, we are able to harness that collective wisdom and that collective intelligence of the crowd that would effectively take us to the next level. Because it's letting us think, consciously like a true community. And that is really inspiring as well.
Just to add as well, I think this idea of technology can give us that access that's necessary, so that platform, but also the ability to really give the user the ability to solve their own problems, right? So when I think about the type of organizations that we work with, like I look at an organization in Brazil called Rodada Hacker. So John talked about this idea of the next decade being the decade of the woman. What we don't realize is that 87% of software programmers are men.
Yeah.
So think about that disparity. Yet more than half of smartphone users are women. So Rodada Hacker has decided to create a hacker school, coding school for women, by women. So I think that ability to provide access and that equality, I think, is powerful.
It's incredible. Did you know that up to high school, the performance of girls in math and science is equal or greater than that of men? And then when you move to undergrad, the participation of women in science, math-related programs is not even 30%. Yeah. It's incredible.
In Kenya, the empowered woman is, especially for my business concept, is a much better business partner than men, and this is because they, especially for a product like drinking water in a household, they make not only the spending decision of what to buy, and it's health orientated, but also in terms of distributing the product, to recommending it to friends and family or to new consumers. They understand it very quickly. They have a much better sense of dealing with money in the household. So I think especially for developing countries, there is really a very high potential for the empowerment of women in small businesses, in household spending, and I think that falls way under the radar for most businesses.
Do you have questions? Because I have like 1,000 more. No? So to wrap up, I would like to finish, because we only have almost 5 more minutes, with a bit of inspiration or advice. For everybody who's here, They have their careers already in place. They're working wherever they are, in corporations, in their own startups. Some might have collaborated with NGOs before or not. Some might have heard before about the concept of social entrepreneurship and social innovation, but some might not have. What's your hint, your recommendation? How can they get started, each of them, in this new mindset?
I would effectively say that the simple thing that they got to do is to stop thinking about themselves in order to achieve their own individual goals. If you really transform whatever you do and you start analyzing it in the context of others and see how it is truly that you're impacting others, when was the last time that you thought about anybody other than yourself? What is it that you did yesterday for somebody? You are on the right track. Because I believe that you already have enough education in order to profit out of the solution of that problem that you have identified. The thing is that we are so embedded into making our own living that we don't realize that the only way to really make that living and be self-fulfilled and inspired is through really thinking about others. So that's the first thing that I would recommend. The second one is that you don't see innovation as it happens. You only see it in retrospective. And that's a shame, because we need to realize that we have an incredible opportunity here, thanks to technology, to transform literally everything and everywhere. And if it isn't us, then who? Which is the third thing. You need to take responsibility for the moment that you're living through right now. Those are the three recommendations that I would make.
Yeah, maybe it happens to me, maybe it happens to others as well. At some point you get angry about all the unfairness and you complain, and at some point you get so angry you don't complain anymore and you do something about it. Ramon.
Yeah, so I think for me it's how do you take that first step? So once you identify that problem, what do you want to do about it? And I think it requires one to understand what's your sphere of influence. So sometimes, it's like you said, you feel like, oh, you have to be have some kind of superpower or somebody who's super influential, when actually you have the tools right in front of you, right? You have the ability right in front of you. You all probably work for organizations and companies that have amazing leverage. So how do you use that to create innovation, social innovations within these companies? How do you use those resources? People come up to me and tell me all the time, they say, I love the work that you're doing. How can I quit, transition into some sort of social enterprise? I was talking to this woman who works at Vale, one of the big mining companies in Brazil, and I said, what's your passion? Education. That's a passion for Vale as well. Yeah. That's how they get their future workforce. So how can you use Vale's resources to then fulfill your own passion, but also create that social value? And clearly, I think there's a lot of potential there. No?
Yeah.
I also think once you have that feeling, which you described, that you want to indulge in social entrepreneurship, I mean, my advice is instead of opening the next better delivery service of pizza in Madrid, or car sharing service, or take it to not even to bricks, take it to below bricks, yeah, to really developing countries, because there they are really on the precipice of using technology already. So as I mentioned, the mobile payment systems. If you see a high competitive landscape here in Spain, and you think, oh, it would be great I can do this better and that better, then why compete with 2,000 other companies trying to do it here in Spain? Go to Kenya, go to South Africa, go even to South America, and try it there, because you will have less competition. You will be, running, surfing on the wave, and of course there are problems and barriers of informal markets, of corruption, or of just cultural barriers. But that's overcomable, and if you overcome that, the market share is for yours to grab. So there are so many clever ideas in here, I'm sure. So just try applying them to a different sector, a different level, instead of just fighting for 1% market share in Spain, and go for 10 to 50% in other countries.
But listen, you know, like the problems of the world are so big, and I'm so small. And what does it matter to the world if I do something or I don't? You know, I could just get in this train in which I am and go with my train, not moving anywhere, wherever it takes me. Or I could take a risk and do something about what is going, and I have a family and I'm scared. And I don't think it matters to the world whether I do something or I don't. Do you really get a kick out of working in social innovation and social entrepreneurship? Is it worth the effort?
I think you have to be brave, you know, absolutely. Because, but that you can be brave by realizing that you're really not protecting anything. Because what is it that you have really? Nothing, you know. So when you go out there and you start trying to do this business, you realize, you know, that we have a German friend doing business in Kenya, that we have a Dominican New Yorker doing business in Brazil, and that you have a Colombian, you know, changing the real estate in New York. So what are you waiting for, guys? That's essentially, you know, the message as well.
Okay, so let's wrap up with this. What are you protecting? Be brave, change the world. You have a good education. Make us all proud. Thank you very much.